Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. Unusual video for me today because this is my first attempt at doing one of these voiceover type videos. But the trouble I'm having is I'm doing lots and lots of small pieces and it's a real bind to get the camera out and film absolutely everything. But what I can do is take steps along the way and I'll do a voiceover afterwards because it makes my life a lot easier. So today's job is to rebuild a Land Rover front panel. Let's get on with it. And here it is in all of its glory. Now, anybody who's had an old Land Rover has most likely seen this. Bottom of the panel completely rusted out. And now the reason they do that is because along the bottom edge on that return, they've actually got another piece of steel in there. It's a double layer. Now, water gets between that, rust starts, and it blows the panel out. They all did it, so it's not a big deal. Right. Good news these days is they make a repair section for it, and the repair section doesn't have the double layer in because, to be honest, it's not really needed. So the first thing I did here, if you look at the top edges of those two square holes, I've got a measurement. That's just my datum point there. So from the top of that hole, you can see both sides, it says 13.5 inches. And that's to the bottom of the box because that's what I'm going to use to offer the new panel in. So the next step, we're going to cut it off and then offer up the new panel. And here it is with the damage section cut away. So first things to note, we've got the that piece on the second leg down, sort of shiny pointing towards you with holes in. That's actually the radiator bracket. So it goes from the very back of the panel all the way to the front, and then there's a return where it spot welds to the outer skin. Now the way you get those off is you just find the spot welds, just run the grinder up and down, and they'll become obvious. Put a drill clean through them, and then from the back, just chisel it off with a metal chisel. That'll separate that strengthening rib from the actual outer skin. And then if you look carefully, all of the legs as they come down, they're all cut at different heights. Reason for that is in some places I wanted to take a bit more, other places I didn't need to take so much. So I just cut it where, and you have to think as well where you're going to be able to get the welding torch in. So it doesn't matter that they're not even, it makes no difference. As long as you make sure that your repair panel is going to cover everything, it really doesn't make any difference. So in this instance, this is how I did it. So the next step is going to be lay the front panel over the top, the repair section, get that 13.5 inch gap perfect, and then you can use the angle grinder to cut between where you've cut off the metal on the front panel, the original, and the repair section. So you're going to trim up that repair section to make it go in. Now you can even take a little bit more off of the original if you want to make sure you've got a really nice butt joint. That's what we did next, and here it is. Now, as you can see, I've got these little blue things holding the panel in place. Now, they're called panel clamps. You can buy those just about anywhere. They're super useful. And if you're doing any kind of work like this with bodywork and sort of cutting panels in, you need to make sure that the two panels are at the same height so you don't get a ridge. These are the best way I've found of doing it. I'm sure people do it different ways, but this is just how I do it. So once this is all in, the next step is to actually remove them. So in order to remove them to weld up, what you've got to do is put a tack either side of the panel clamp or you're fixing, and then also around the edge on that where it turns 90 degrees either side, where it bolts to the wing, tack everything so it holds it square when you remove the fixings. And when you start to weld, it'll make sure that it doesn't pull. So in the next clip, we're going to see everything welded up. And here it is. As you can see, we've got all four pillars welded and it welds around the 90-degree bend as well. And if you look down that second pillar, we put the spot welds back in. Now, the way you do the spot welds, really simple. Where you drill the holes through in the beginning from the front, you weld it through the back to the new repair section again. And that's basically it. So I welded this both sides. I started on the front, welded everything up, and then welded from the back. Now, the next thing you're going to have to do is everything on the front, you're going to have to grind it back. That's so that when you put the finish on, obviously you can't see the weld, but put enough grind in there so you can get a wipe of filler in. With MIG welding in particular, you're never going to get it perfect. It's never going to be perfectly flat after you've ground it. So just make sure it concaves a little so you can then effectively repair the damage with just a wipe of filler. Now this panel's actually getting galvanized and you'd be amazed how much that smooths out grinding marks. After this thing was galved, you could not see them, but you'll see that in a moment. So because we intend having this piece galvanized, the galvanizing companies always ask that you bring a piece to be done shot blasted immaculately clean, and that's because before they put this in the 400-degree zinc before they dip it in, they actually put it in acid first. And even after a shot blasting, you can see places on here where there's little bits of rust and just little things that haven't the blasting hasn't quite got off. Now, the purpose of the acid is to clean all of this off and greasy fingerprints and anything else that might be in there before it goes into the zinc. Trouble is, if everybody were to bring them round things that were painted, it would ruin the acid. The acid will fetch off paint. If there's the odd little piece on there, they won't mind. But if everybody were to bring around big lumps of steel that have all been painted, the acid would be no good in no time at all. So go and get it shot blasted first. This was actually done with chilled iron, and it's incredibly aggressive. This is a much more industrial than you would normally use for car bodywork. But because we're having it dipped, it doesn't matter. It actually helps because it's so rough when you feel it. The galvanizing's actually got something to grab a hold of. So in the next clip, we're going to see it all nicely galvanized. And that's it galvanized. It looks fantastic. Now you can see in the corners on the right hand and the left hand side where the weld was, I really went to town on the grinding to get rid of that weld. And you can see there's a change in colour, but you can't feel it. So there's just enough room there for a wipe of filler, which I'll do in a moment. And in the centre two pillars, you can actually still see a little bit of the weld. Now the reality is that was deliberate because you can't see that behind the grill anyway, and I wanted the extra strength. So if you do end up with a little bit anywhere, make sure it's on the centre too, because you really can't see them. There's a picture of the back also, and at that point we're ready to apply finish. Now that's not just as simple as it sounds, because painting galvanizing is very, very tricky. So let's take a look what you need to do. And here we are all primed up, ready for paint. So the word primer, you can see on the blue bottle in the centre there, it says galvanized metal primer. The word primer is actually quite misleading. It's not a primer. This is called mordant fluid or mordant solution. And what that does is kills off the surface of the galvanizing, because galvanizing is designed to repel anything that sticks to it. So if you were to get a can of paint or even etch primer and prime this in fresh galvanizing, it would just fall off. It will peel off. So you have to literally kill it where it is. And then apply the paint to that. So the first thing I did to put this on, ran around the painted surface, the decorative surface, the front, with some 100 grit, I think it was, in the orbital sander, just to even everything up for paint, so it was flat. Then applied the mordant solution, applied the body filler afterwards. Then I'll just buff up the body filler to put that to shape, and then applied some etch primer. But you really must use that mordant solution, otherwise anything you put onto it will simply fall off again. And then we can see in the next clip, everything's all painted and looks really good. Well, painted, it's primed. That was U-Pol acid etch. It's stuck brilliant. No problems at all. The mordant solution did its job. So now this can sit on the shelf until I'm ready to paint everything else. So that is how you put a new bottom section into a rotten Land Rover front panel. That's how you get one ready for Galv, and this is how it looks when it's finished. So hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment or subscribe. If you've got any questions at all, by all means put them down below. Even if you want to tell me how crappy my job was, just let me know. Either way, it helps the channel. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.